then
Hmm.
you reach a point where you feel like you want to take a break, even from the UN, even from your work with communities. Tell us about that.
Okay, so that's at the moment. Of course there's a timing when you need to separate with the organization. So that's what it is.
Yes.
Um, and that's why I'm very appreciative that I was able to do all that and still have this opportunity to choose. I mean, public health is now, I've invested a lot, so it's an area I want to keep on. But also some of the things that I really would like to do, some of them from my dissertation, the research that I did, because I didn't get an opportunity to do that because
Yes.
of working consistently. So um, I'm hoping to delve into, rewriting, recapturing history and culture, some of the things that I already started on, that I can be able to complete them. Because we need to write, we need to, um, there isn't a lot that young people have, to
That's
grasp on.
true.
And then communication has totally changed now.
Yeah.
We only read books and history books and all that, but now we have different ways of presenting it. So we want to interest young people about our cultures, our social culture, our, the structures that existed, but how they can use them for the moment.
Yeah.
I see them in the way they express themselves, in the way they are looking for something. They're looking for identity,
Yes,
something
they
they can
are.
hold on to, so that they know how to move forward because they already know where they're coming from.
Yes.
And I think identity is a big crisis that we face as a country, because we would be treating the country better and each other better if we knew, if we respected, where we are coming from and who we are. There are
Absolutely.
many societies out there that don't have what we have.
Yeah.
And that's why when they see you dressed in something Maasai or whatever, they already think that's culture. And
Yeah.
yet, it's, yes, it's culture at home, it's practiced, but when I just wear, something on my hand, um, it doesn't, it's a reflection, but it's not the real thing. They're looking, and that's why universities come down here, part of the reason, to see how do the Maasai live, how come they have kept this culture, all that. So
Yeah.
it's because they don't have anything of their own, but now the rest of us are trying to erase ours so that we can be like them, while
Yeah.
we are the people yeah.
I
Yes.
adore that about the Maasai. They stuck onto their culture and the value of it.
Mhm.
And the rest of us are now
Yeah.
looking to emulate that.
Yeah, yeah. So we
Yes.
need to do a lot more, but I mean, there isn't a lot because our history, maybe even the books don't dwell a lot on that.
Yes, but
So it's
I'm
how to bring,
hoping, I am hoping
yeah,
that you're going to mint a book out of this whole process that the journey you started with
right,
this culture thing from your PhD
yeah,
program, and that you
yeah.
continue to go with it and mint a book out of it, unless your book is already ready and I didn't know about it.
No, it's not ready. It's in process,
Good,
and
good.
there are many elements to it.
Wonderful.
And also not just a book, but something that involves other people so that they can think critically and
Yes,
think, wow, we should have done this. Wow,
yes,
there's something we should tap into. So
yes.
I'm hoping for that. My grandmother, who died about 100,
Wow.
would tell us many stories. And one of the things that I would feel such a failure if I don't recapture it is she was a young girl when they were building the railway line
Oh,
from Mombasa to Nairobi.
wow.
So she was just a young girl. So she would tell us how they were going to the trading center, which was Voi, and the
Yes,
trading center was, it's the traders were Arabs at the time. So
yes,
they would go for an exchange, maybe from farm produce to go and exchange it with something. So they would
yes.
see these, they would see white people, they would see Indians, and they have never seen people so light. So they would have to run across the railway line to say, let's run before they catch us. Because like they had never seen such people.
Of course.
And so she lived through that. She lived through as
Wonderful.
they were building the railway line. So capturing all that.
Yeah.
Um, my father went to Burma, like many
My
men of his
grandfather
generation.
too.
Your dad did? Oh my
Yes.
goodness, look at that. Yes. But where have you read anything about Burma,
You know,
you know?
you know.
Yeah. So all that is lost. But we know that the people that came from Burma did not come back the same. Some of those who went to India and the countries that had already been colonized earlier in Asia uh, became the people that fought for independence, became the people that said, you know, you have to get education if you're going to come out of this darkness or this colonialism and so on. And so that's there's a gain there that was not captured. I don't remember it in the history books, but I know that I have read enough to understand that this is what happened.
You know, when my grandfather went, of course, I was not born yet, but when he
Hmm.
came back, I was a little girl, and I remember
Hmm.
that he didn't speak much, and I was told he changed from the time, he was not the same man who went to Burma.
Right,
When he came
right,
back, he saw things that he could no longer really just talk freely. So he wasn't
right.
speaking much. I know he was very loving. He taught me how to make my first pancake, for example. He taught me how
Okay.
to write cursive,
Right,
but
right.
he was very quiet, very loving, but very quiet. So yes, something happened
Yeah,
to them there which we don't know much about. We don't know the
yeah.
circumstances under which they left. They lived,
Hmm.
and when they left, they were given uh, um, a coat, a camel. Was it kabuti? What's that thing called?
Kabuti, yes,
Yeah, a
yes.
long coat and a gum
Yeah.
boot, and
Mm.
also I think they were also given that thing that carries the tandarua kind of kibeti
The
side.
weapon,
Yes,
the one that carries the gun or what?
yes. So
Yeah,
they didn't have much. They were given two or three things depending on what they were
yeah.
doing,
Right.
and they didn't talk much. My grandfather, I know, didn't say much. I was too little and curious, and I would have been able to remember the
Mm.
much he said, but he didn't say much. He just smiled, was very happy. He would touch my head.
Mm.
He would show me how to make pancake because before he left
Yeah.
for Burma, he was some kind of chef. They were not Africans
Right.
were not called chef then, but he
Yeah.
worked at Victoria Hospital as a
Hmm.
cook, a chef, a senior cook,
Right.
whatever.
Right.
So I think that's part of why they took him to go and continue to do that
Mm.
work. He was a trained cook,
Hmm.
and
Right.
when he came back, he didn't say much. And I think the
Yeah.
first time
So
I saw
it,
him in the kitchen was when he went to show me how to make pancake. That's the only thing I remember. So
that's what you
we need to
remember.
find out a lot more, right, about Burma
We
and
need to
everything else.
find,
Yes,
yeah, because it was a whole generation of people drafted in their age.
yes,
I mean, very young,
yes,
strong young men that were drafted to go into the World War.
yes.
Um, but we,
And
if
they left
I
young
don't remember
families.
even, yeah, left young families, and so what happened to
Yeah,
to all of them across the country.
yes,
So it's not something that we value. It's not something, we are saying we transitioned through that. we,
yes,
we, we hardly talk about, let's say, the slaves that were, I mean, the East African slaves. West
yes,
Africa is big time with slavery and all that, and you find that Western schools go to West Africa, to Sierra Leone, to Liberia, all that,
yeah.
and ours is muted, to use your real good word. Is quite muted. It's as if it didn't happen, and yet we know that
You
lots of
know,
people were gotten from the interior of East Africa and taken to the Kenyan coast, and then to Zanzibar and all that.
yes,
So what happened to all that? How come it's not something we teach about? How
yeah,
come we don't talk about this to the younger generation in our school system, at least well enough for them to realize, oh, there was a moment in history when this happened to our grand.
when you care to go to Fort Jesus or you know about it, because it's not nobody
Hmm.
says much about it, and that's when you begin to realize that okay,
Yeah,
there were some things happening here that you need to know more about. The slavery
yeah,
component of it and all those things.
yeah,
To your point, which we have not been told much about. It's not like if you don't know, you would think that didn't happen to East Africans. But
yeah,
there are many East Africans who went out there who are
yeah,
who are
yeah,
taken out there.
yeah. And then, I mean, for Jesus is good, and libraries are good. But when you look at the generation today, they're not the kind that are gonna, stay in a library, just to understand what this is. So you need to bring it to them. You need to put life into it so that they can see, oh, this affects me. This is about me.
Absolutely.
But
To your point,
yeah,
we have to create products out of what is
right,
available. and
Yeah.
put it in a menu that the young people can consume. If it is
Yeah.
videos, if it is YouTube, if it
Yeah.
is podcasts, things that they can easily
Yeah.
consume and understand and appreciate.
Right.
To your point.
Right.
Mm.
Yeah, we need to show them that it is important. And how do
Yes.
you do that? You have to choose the best method or the best channel
Yeah.
that other people can consume it. Because what are they consuming? They are watching Western movies. They are watching everything from the West because every whatever small thing has been turned into some product. But we are not doing that, and
No.
part of the
We
reason is
should.
that we don't think it's important. It's not something we talk about. It's just in the past. Let's keep it in the library, in the archives, and so on.
Yeah.
The National Archives has a lot. When I was doing my research, I was even quite surprised that I could
Yeah.
find so much stuff about what I was looking at. But it's sitting there. How many people go there unless maybe they're doing a master's thing, thesis, or they're doing a dissertation?
Most people
Yeah,
don't
so
know
it's
it's
all
even there.
hidden.
To your
Right.
point, most
They
people
just know
don't know
it's
it's even there.
National Archives. Yeah, but
Yeah.
it's there and it needs to be, made live, made
Yes.
relevant,
Yes.
bring it to the fore so people know this is an
Yes.
important thing of our past, of our history.
Wonderful. So when
Yeah.
you came back,
Mhm.
and then you got your UN job, and of course you have two beautiful daughters who you had with you in the US. What
Right.
happened? Did they come back with you? Did they remain back in school? And tell us a little bit about your family, please.
Okay, so the two girls, the one that was 12 then, started school in the US, college in the US, and then continued in Kenya.
Yes.
So she finished at USIU and then went back for her master's in Ohio, Kent State University, and finished. She
Yes.
works here now, so she's
Yes.
an
Yes.
adult now.
Yes.
The younger one stayed on with me until when we came back, and then she, of course, had to finish her high school here. And then when just graduated last year, she was in Drexel in Pennsylvania.
Oh,
So
congratulations to both of them.
yeah, so she came back recently also and adjusting to the realities because for her, she spent a lot more time there. She went there when she was 5, so
Yes.
we've been really working hard at making sure that we don't lose her to that other side, so
I
that
am
she,
glad you did that.
yeah. So there's that
Wonderful.
too, but she
And
loves
and your
home as well.
husband, all this while, your better half had to be going through all kinds
Yeah.
of roller coasters. How did all this work out?
Yeah, we took him through a lot, so I took him through a lot, but it all worked out for
He's
good.
wonderful.
Yeah, he didn't come with us because the scholarship they give you is for one person.
Yes.
So and we needed support. So and he didn't really have much to come and do there. So you don't leave a good job to go and sit around in the US doing nothing. So
Yes.
he continued with his job, supported us. He's now it became easier for him to visit us than
Yes.
us coming home. So that's what we did.
Yes.
That's why when we were done, we came back. We needed to
To a
go back
lovely
for to
home.
go and
Yeah,
work
he
on
held the fort and made sure you came back to a lovely home. That's wonderful.
completely, yes. So in fact, it's something we're very thankful for that it all worked out well. Sometimes you make a decision, you don't know where it's taking you, but you keep praying that it works out okay. So all for the good of that.
So, anything more you want to emphasize? Because your story is so great. I mean, this we will come back for you another time for many more. There were a few offshoots that we had to curb as we were
Yeah,
talking. That we will come back for.
right.
Their Beijings are there, and this is there, and that is there. So we'll come back for you. But right now, is there anything else you
Yeah.
wish to emphasize to our
Perhaps
diaspora
another.
community or even our back home community?
Yeah. Okay. One of the things that I also gained when I was still at Binghamton was getting a consultancy for World Bank.
Yes, yes, you did. You did.
Yes, I did.
Working
Thank
in
you very
six
much.
West African countries, right?
Right. So it really added that value because I was really feeling like hey, we have to do something for our continent. So it was such an opportunity, for this agricultural project that needed a communications consultant. So I was able to visit at least four countries: Nigeria, Ghana, Cote d'Ivoire, and Senegal, to work on this communications element, because there were six countries that were working on, but it didn't have it all together in terms of communication. Which reminded me of how often projects start and communications can be forgotten. It comes last, and then they're in the middle of the project. They're like, why is this not working? Why are these communities not adding up, not together? Because you never involved them. You never thought that they needed to be involved. So communication is such a key area, really, that for all projects, for all things that we are doing, how you communicate. And I did a lot of that with public health. You're trying to persuade people, for instance, to get, let's say, to get vaccinated, to wear masks. That was the most one that I learned from. That behavior change, which is one of my pet subjects, and areas that I really like to dwell on, is it's very hard to change people's direction or mind or behavior,
Yes.
because you're telling them that there's a disease and they have to wear masks. Why are we wearing masks? Why are you making us wear masks?
You know?
So it's a huge thing, behavior change, and of course communication, and how we do that and how we convince people. Right now, the big one in Kenya is the SHA, moving from NHIF,
Yes.
the insurance program that people are used to, and moving to the new one. And of course there are big questions about, why are you making,
Yeah.
how can we even trust, why are we, what was wrong with the other one, a
Yes.
lot of work. So just that process, I think, even to emphasize the question of processes are even more important than the result, than the product,
Yes,
because we run to the product.
yes.
I want the money, but I don't want the process.
And
I want, yeah, I want people to adapt to a certain way of life, but I have not involved them. They have not participated.
yes.
So how am I expecting that, I go to a community and that quickly they are willing to have their children vaccinated for polio or for whatever else?
Yes.
So it's very key that we pay attention. We think about them as the core
Yes.
before we can even think of the product or the outcome.
We have to move them along. And the good thing about that I'm very inspired about in Kenya now, this insistence on public participation, but that's not enough.
Right.
That is what fantastic, and we should we should augment that with a very strong communications component of everything. I remember that even at the headquarters of a very international organization that is operating around the world, as the communications unit, you have to keep emphasizing that you've got to get us at the table at the beginning of every project.
Right.
So that
At
we
the
can get the
beginning.
strategy for this project to be adopted by people, so they understand why this project, why is it important. But if you leave us out of the at the beginning of the process, and then you get into trouble and you want us to come and do you come and do to manage the crisis, it doesn't work that way. And it takes the most educated people to even understand that, yes, we need the communications team from day one. It's a very important thing everywhere.
Yeah. And sometimes it's even the communication that you need before anything else.
Absolutely.
Because whether it's economics, whether it's income generating projects, whether it's SMEs, whatever it is, who have you told, and what gives you a right to push it to people before you involve them?
Yes.
Because it's undermining their integrity, undermining their intelligence,
Yes.
and just assuming they'll be there to just receive it.
From the very conceptualization of whatever it is, communication has to be in. And this is something that I wish I had the hugest bullhorn and go ahead and tell the whole world, you must communicate it. As soon as you think it, you must communicate it. It depends on because even when you put together your small circle of people so that you brainstorm, you're already communicating it. And then the results of that group, that small 10, 5 people that you're brainstorming with, has to also go to a bigger group. And eventually, it has to be communicated properly to the right people. You are very right about that.
Right. And sometimes you even have to draw from a little pilot of a community just to see if we bring it down,
Yes.
can we start with them and hear from them? What
Yes.
is it they expect? What would work here? Even if you think you've done other things before, a new product, maybe people may react differently. So I think that's one of the things we really need to learn in terms of communication is here. We can use it in so many other ways,
Yes.
but we have to allow it, to be used. We have to honor people. I mean, many lessons learned from, especially COVID, because we went from county to county. We are working with them. We are working with the counties. We are trying, to hear them so that when it comes down to this is what we need to do, then they are part of it. But you still got pockets where people say no. You go away 3 months later and you go back and they're where you left them. So that tells you something huge there is going on. And
Yes.
so, to my pet subject of culture and social culture and what's going on in that community so that we can do better in the
Yes.
future, whether it's health, whether it's agriculture. I
Yes.
think that's one of the things we need to dwell on and give it credit and attention.
Yes. And my mantra to not only to management but to the communications staff wherever you are in the whole world, lean
Right.
in, insist on being at the table from
Mm.
the zero draft. You have to be in
Right.
there and be able
Right.
to guide the process. If you wait to be invited, nobody is going to invite you. They will give you your monthly salary, but they will forget you when it comes to conceptualizing and how to
Yeah.
make this process work. So communications team,
Yeah.
wherever you are in the world, lean in, come in, make sure you
Right.
know what's going on around you and go in and say you want to be part of it. They may
Right.
say no the first time, maybe the second time, the third and fourth time they will say, oh yeah, we understand.
Mhm.
So let's
Right.
also do our part in trying to make sure we get into the process.
Right, right,
Yes.
and I think communities like to be involved.
Yes.
It's just that maybe we deny them that opportunity. In some places, they will be like, okay, so now you trust us enough. You think we can communicate with the opportunity with the communities instead of you, and we are like, they don't know me. They trust you, and here is the information. Here is what they need to know
Yes.
because this is the truth. I mean, it's not like you're giving them a package of stuff that is not true, but they need to hear it from someone they can trust.
Yes.
So sometimes we undermine what community leaders can do, and we need to pay more attention
Yes.
to them
Yes.
so that they can work with the broad idea. They understand how their community will receive it and how best to
Yeah.
communicate it.
We,
Yeah.
to your point, we have to work with the pillars of the community,
Hmm.
communities.
Right.
Well,
Right.
thank you so much, Dr. Jemima Mwakisha. We appreciate you. You have taught us so much. I'm going to listen to this tape so many times because a lot of it really resonates with me. So I am
Yeah.
sure many people will find it absolutely useful. We thank you very
Mhm.
much for giving the Diaspora Point your time to say to us so much. To our audience, thank you so very much. Dr. Jemima Mwakisha has just told us that we have to make the community involved. We have to make sure the community is involved in everything we do. We have to use the pillars of communities to communicate with the communities, of course, because they trust them. And we communications people have to facilitate that. In everything we do, in all the projects that we do, we have to remember that if it is not properly communicated, it will not work. There will be no buy-in. And she tells us about our culture, how our young people have nothing to defer to look at, to make them appreciate our culture. In a society and communities where were told that our culture was inferior, if we ourselves don't take the ball and run with it by creating products that our young people can consume, what are the shorts that, the video shorts that we have that are talking about our culture legitimately and authentically? What are the YouTube programs that we have about our cultures? What are the books for those who want to read? What are the other products, the other media products that are consumable by our young people? Because really, we are the custodians of our young people. It is something that is it behooves us to make sure that our young people understand who they are, not from now, but from way back centuries. There are many things that have not been explained that we need to explain to our young people. So our young people is an issue. Another one now is for the diaspora. You go out there, it is hard work. And in the case that Dr. Mwakisha has just told us, she was in a community, a university community, where Africans really supported each other. Young mothers supported each other's, intellectuals, people who are students and so on, or even who are teaching, supported each other. We have to learn that, because really, that is a primary tenet of the African society, African community. Communities have to support each other. That's how we used to be. It seems like we're losing it now, but I'm so glad that at least in a university in New York, they remembered that, and that supported them through a very difficult process, because studying, researching, teaching, whatever else you do out there in a foreign country is not easy. And so we have to keep supporting each other. There are so many things she said about Beijing World Conference. We will have to come back on that, because that is huge. That is the genesis of, we brought a situation where the girl felt strong, the woman felt strong, but we don't want some of what we see going on where that has been turned into vilifying men. Men have to feel strong too, because it takes two to tango, and it takes two to build a family, and to build a home, and to build a community, and to build a nation. So what we were able to achieve for Beijing has to be interpreted in a manner that is concurrent, in a manner that will work to empower the guys as well. Now, there's so much he said. I may not summarize all of it, because then I'll go back to the whole program again. But what I want to say is this: support our channel by giving us a thumbs up, by sharing our program, and by subscribing. If we are strong, we will bring many more guests like Dr. Mwakisha here, and we can do it. We can empower each other, we can empower ourselves, and we can empower our children, and we can go places. Thank you again, Dr. Mwakisha, and thank you, our viewers. Bye-bye.